Well, Season 5 is here officially, and the reaction to it is to be what I expected it to be. But I think Jay puts it most bluntly when he says New World is just awful, with his issues and big future hints that are his video that's up right now. Now, Jay and I are friends. I'm going to include a link to his channel as well as to this video. Please go give it some time if you have not had the opportunity to see it yet. And if you like content creators, I think he's one of the best ones out there. I really do appreciate his hard work in this arena. Now, beyond that, though, I'm going to get an idea of what issues that he's had and what big future hints that he is hinting at in this video. So guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me during this react. If you liked the video, hit that like button. I've already liked his video, as I do pre-likes. As you can always take the like back in that regards. But let's see what Jay has to say.
I think it's safe to say at this point that Season 5 has been a mixed bag. However, maybe some hope is on the horizon. We've had some really interesting teases about what's coming in the future and when we might hear about it. So I have...
What's great right now instantly is the name of the poster. Controller support is content. Controller support isn't content, but it is, I think, a necessary update and a necessary step. And I, as a controller player, absolutely am thrilled that they've added it in. And many of you who went and joined me yesterday and have been in the comments, like, I think you guys have been looking forward to this update. And they're not done yet with kind of refining and making more improvements to the controller, but it is what it is. Anyway, continue on.
This picture here that somebody put in Discord, I haven't actually verified all of these, but I've definitely seen some of them in my own time playing, like the UI bug, the healing bug I've heard about, Shockwave is bugged, the bolt exploit, which we're going to talk about, and I've probably seen more than what's on here, but you know, whatever, right? The real deep cynic in me wants to talk about how they slowed down for quality, but actually I think that might be a bit harsh. This is a huge patch which changes a lot of the fundamentals, if not adding a lot of content.
Yeah, that's the thing, that when we talk about how they've moved the animation system, moved the combat system into native C++ as a developer, that means they can actually debug the code. They were using scripts, and anytime you're working with scripts, it's a mixed bag. It ends up being a lot of trial and error.
I suspect some of this is going to get fixed sooner rather than later. I just want to talk about one thing that we all knew was coming: the PvE arenas that each have an artifact behind them. Yeah, getting into these has been pretty much absolutely annoying. What's happening is everybody's stood at the door trying to desperately press this button when it goes live. Man. Some people are probably like cheating and hacking. When the server first went live, like about half an hour after, this place was absolutely packed and it was pretty damn crazy. It sort of blows my mind that they did that, but you know, whatever. In a day or two it'll settle down. The arenas though pretty easy. I'm not 100% sure why they did that, but yeah, they're pretty packed. Then let's talk about some of the more egregious issues. By the way, I got Tempest Fury, not bragging. I'd probably have had all the artifacts today if the game was working properly, but I just sort of couldn't bother trying to find those artifacts, to be honest. But yeah, you can see here, you see the, you know, the perk IDs. Yep, they're all pretty much like that. They're all fudged. They're pretty much all, well, I mean, everything is like that. I was actually having issues getting in the arena, by the way. I was getting like arena ID failed, but I'm like, well, we'll try it with a different group when all the players come down. But the other thing I want to talk about is the movement. Now, I think this was actually like this on the PTR, but I think I thought it was like lag or something, but it's not. But basically, it just looks like you're ice skating. Like if you do this thing with the new freeform movement, it looks like you're ice skating. Like you're like slipping and sliding, and it's like you properly don't get started.
Doesn't bother me.
I really don't like it. I hate it, to be honest. It does not feel good. I hadn't
noticed it until he called it out.
I'm not slipping here, I'm just running normally. And if you turn off the free movement, even that's the same, right? Like the whole movement has been changed and it does not feel good. It doesn't feel right. I don't like it. Combat's maybe a little bit of a mixed bag. There are some abilities that are just straight up broken, or maybe not straight up broken, but that just feel even worse. For example, like if I go with my Warhammer here and I try and use Thunder and Shockwave, there's just something that, like, you see that delay? Yeah, that's busted. I think they'll be able to like sort of quickly fix that. There's a bit of a delay between when you actually hit and then the effect, and you know, that's obviously not working as intended. Most of the combat sort of felt okay. Some animations probably taking a little bit getting used to. Like if I think I was getting stuck in certain animations that maybe I hadn't been getting stuck in before. I'm not going to show footage for my post rush, I've only done one. And I would say anecdotally, there wasn't that much change to desync. The clumps didn't really feel very good. Overall, with the combat update, I sort of think like, yeah, it's probably not as good. It's probably worse than what we had before. However, for me, it's not really a deal breaker. There's nothing sort of like crazy. I think once they tidy up some of the, some of the abilities, some of the animation locks. There was at one point, by the way, I think I actually T-posed because I ran out of animations or something. My character actually just straight up T-posed for a very split second, but it was funny. I think eventually though, the combat will feel pretty similar. And
I would think that on that note, that it actually should make it easier for them to both find the issues and resolve them, being that they've made that development switch. And being that they made that development switch, like, I know this isn't going to, like, if you're not a developer, like, this is so hard to kind of explain, but the amount of effort that lift had to entail, that work had to entail, is massive. And yes, that always runs the risk of introducing issues, and that's why you end up seeing companies absolutely avoid doing this at all, and rather just kind of like, well, we'll just make do here and there. But what AGS is doing is they're investing in that system, because that investment is going to pay off in the future for New World, and then it's also going to pay off in the future for the Lord of the Rings. So there is a lot of power that they're putting into this, and in a way, all of us, if we think about this, yeah, it's on live servers, but if you kind of treat this in this way, as this kind of public test realm, which you might not want, and I get it, and that's why it's like, honestly, sometimes it's best to take a break and step away. But if you think about it, that we're public testing, and they're going to find these issues, and everything that they can do, like, especially when it comes to this, that actually then hopefully increases their velocity, that's going to be an important thing that we'll all feel later on, and we'll feel that value later on. So this is kind of in my mind where you're walking up the, back in my day, I used to walk up the hill in the snow to school and back home, like one of those things where it's like, yeah, remember how much we used to struggle?
Actually, that happened on stream, so I'm going to show you a very, a screen recording of it happening. But if you look here, I T-pose in a minute. They do a sweep, I don't quite get swept, I T-pose. But, I mean, nothing crazy, just a little bit of a bit of jank, basically. I think eventually they'll sort of, resolve most of these issues. I'm not too stressed. I think overall, they should probably stop talking about slowing down for quality, because they're just going to get memed on either way, to be honest. Whilst a lot of these issues are just a bit daft, I think they sort of make sense when you consider what they've actually changed in the combat. If you don't know, by the way, they've gone from scripting to native C++.
Yep.
I don't really understand coding, so I'm not going to talk about it too much, but that change has been huge, and somehow it's affected quite a lot of things. This clip is going around at the minute. Pretty much with the bow and the musket, you can effectively do this thing where you're doing rapid firing. Now, the quality is a bit scuffed, but yeah, you can rapid fire. That bug is back. It's actually done slightly differently. I actually don't know how you fully do it, but yeah, that bug is back, and yeah, it's not good. So season 5, I don't want to be oblivious to the fact, definitely a mixed bag. Now, there is some very small grains of hope on the horizon. Today we had a dev video, the Iron Eternum with the CM Lydia, and I have to say, I actually think this video was quite good. There were a few major reveals sort of in here. One of them, by the way, is definitely something to do with like chipmunks or pets. See this little thing here? This is a little chipmunk, I think. They also had one of these in a previous video. Pets, if I'm honest, are probably soft confirmed. It's probably pet.
Oh man, if we get pets, I hope that they have some kind of value outside of being just cosmetic. We've seen it with the mounts. The mounts there's a system behind them, and then the question ends up being, is it pets, like as in a pet kind of, class, or like, hey, I'm this weapon and now I can have a kind of a pet, because that's something I was even talking about on stream that I'd love to see in this game. Or is it just that all of us can actually now have a kind of a pet companion on our adventures that provides some form of benefit or whatnot? Or would you just prefer a pet that's cosmetic, just like how they do it with the minions in Final Fantasy 14? I don't know. There's lots of interesting options and lots of discussion to be had if that's the direction they go. But if that's what they're hinting at, that's going to be freaking cool.
Pets, right? I don't know in what capacity. I don't think it's going to be mounts. They might be an enemy type or a little critter that you run over. I don't know. A critter or pets would make sense. They keep mentioning pets, maybe pets. But there were 2 more things in here. Scott Lane basically confirmed that they're going to announce whatever is coming to New World at Games Fest this year. That's Summer Games Fest, and it's happening, I think, June 7th, round about then. Don't quote me on the exacts. But they basically said, yeah, well, they didn't say it directly, but yeah, it's definitely coming at Summer Games Fest. That's where they can reach a wider audience. Now, in general, console is again one of those things where it's very likely confirmed. By the way, they are selling a controller. Now, obviously that's not console related, it's because the game just got controller support, but I think it's pretty much definitely coming to console at this point. And during the video, he says we're going to create something that's going to get new players back, but there'll also be stuff for, existing players. That makes perfect sense. Console plus a brimstone level of patch, etc.
I'm all in on the idea that consoles are a part of this game's future. The only question I have about it, because I'd put money down on that, and I guess from a timing perspective, I think we get an announcement this year. I don't know if we get a release this year, but that would be pretty wild, etc. But I do think that they'll start talking about it this year if it's a part of their future plans, but we will find out. But beyond that, my question is it cross-play, cross-save? And I know there's a group out there who doesn't want that, who wants these segmented off, walled off gardens, and I just don't think that's the future. I don't think multiplayer games are meant to do that, and that's one, like when I look at ESO would be as a game that I'd play and pick up again if my character was my character on PC. I don't want to start over. And so that being said, it's like I think people just want to kind of play together for the most part. And yeah, there's gonna be some people who don't like that maybe consoles are part of it. We've seen that happen from time to time, but I don't know. I think that would be a real big win. If it is segmented, I think you'll see a population, but I don't think I think more people lose out in that regards.
Etc. Probably with a PvP zone, because that's also hinted at. And there's a couple of things I actually like from Scott in this video. They talk about how actually players don't necessarily just want a new Outpost Rush map, they probably want a different mode, and I have to say, I think I agree with that.
Why not both?
A lot of people are saying why not both, which it's hard to argue with, but the answer I guess is simply money, or the return on investment. But there's one thing I was a little bit suspicious of. Suspicious is maybe really the right word, but there's one thing where he was talking about we have the players segmented and we try and give content to this bucket, then this bucket, then this bucket, and then we circle back around. And I sort of felt that one was maybe an indication of a wider problem with New World. I don't think they should be trying to please every segment. What I think they should probably do is pick the segment that they want to focus on and then deliver the most content there, which I think they actually do already, but I think at this point they should probably commit a little bit heavier too. Interestingly, by the way, they gave a different number of PvEers versus PvPers. They said that PvEers outnumbered PvPers at a 5-to-1 ratio. Okay. So all the PvPers wanting content, that's why you ain't getting it, or it's why you're not getting as much as you think you deserve, because there's not as many of you as you think. They did say about listening to feedback from maybe like Reddit and Discord and maybe YouTube, although I don't.
He also talked about like over a year ago, in the first year, talking about mock wars. I think that would be something very good added into the game, especially if it was added in with matchmaking as just another mode. Like, hey, we're going to put you in this city, here's the war, you're on the defending team, you're on the attacking team, we're going to mock this up. Because one of the things I think I feel intimidated by, I haven't actually ever gotten a war in this game. We haven't fought over any kind of territory, but I think if I ever decided to go into it, I feel like there's people who know how to do it, and then now I'm like, hey, I'm trying to learn, and there's that level of intimidation there. But if I was able to go into mock wars, kind of see how it flows, same thing with invasions, I think that would be really exciting kind of piece of content that could be taken apart. But that also would be repurposed content. It wouldn't be new content for players, but I still think there would be a value there. But you guys can let me know how you think about that.
I don't want to have such hubris to think that they actually watch my videos or anything like that, but it's sort of true that you shouldn't listen to a isolated bit of feedback. The online community of people talking about this game is not as big as the silent majority. That's probably just the way it is. As they say in the video though, that doesn't mean they don't listen to your feedback and my feedback. It just means they need to contextualize it a little bit. I'm not sure why. I had the video in like 420p. But the next hint is I think swimming is pretty much all but confirmed. They do a bit of a sign off, and in the sign off they're talking about saying goodbye, but they're doing swimming puns, and they literally put a swimming pun counter on the screen. Considering they said that there would be Easter eggs, I think you can assume that that is almost certainly one of them.
If they add swimming, which obviously with the puns and them wanting to put out hints for what is coming, if they put out swimming, I hope there's some kind of piece of content that goes like hand in hand with it. Like, now that we can swim, can we swim to areas now, you know, like, oh, now there's a dungeon, we swim to it, or there's these, you know, especially open world dungeons would be really cool that would happen to be underwater. Now, I'm not advocating for underwater content in combat. It's more that, like, oh, once you get under hit, you know, obviously you come out and you're kind of in your fighting stance. However, I think essentially when it comes to swimming, it would be interesting to see if there's combat within the swimming. If like there's a lot of like questions about that. So if they're doing that, that's gonna be interesting. Obviously, that changes kind of the immersive nature of the game, where it's like, yeah, you're in heavy armor. Of course, you're gonna sink to the bottom. So I don't know if they'll have any kind of light, medium, heavy equip load impact on swimming. But that's gonna be something I'm gonna be paying close attention to.
Swimming is probably very likely coming in season 7. And, you know, if I was a betting man, I would put money on it. I just realized I have no idea what that is. Is that a cactus? In my head, it looks like little fingers or like little people with faces drawn on, but I think it's actually a plant. But what this video was, I actually think it was quite good. Of course, they can't really tell us anything new, but now we know when something's getting announced. It's going to be early June at Summer Games Fest. Swimming probably confirmed, pets hinted at yet again. Yeah, I liked it. What I'm not sure I like at the minute is this bloody slippery movement. I just feel so janky. I don't know if they can fix this. I think this was on the PTR. I don't know. I don't like it. It's not a deal breaker for me, but I don't know. It was better when I had the freeform movement on the live version than what we have now. Obviously, it's very early days. We'll see how I feel once I've done, you know, quite a few more outpost rushes and stuff like that. Still a little bit salty about this whole queuing up system. That's not really queue. People are just spamming to get in. But, you know, at least I did the 10-man seasonal trial and got my bloody spin to win.
I've seen that happen. We've seen that happen in many games. And it's frustrating, and that's where it's like you want to do something, but now you actively are PvEing to get into that thing. PvPing to get into that, and that just leads to frustration. That solves itself with time, but ultimately the right call is that, hey, if there's only so much of that instance that we can kind of spin up and run, then you just kind of say, you kind of put your coin on the arcade machine, right? Like, okay, cool, and it's like, yeah, you know what, you're 50th in line. That's fair, as opposed to like, I gotta keep clicking, and as opposed to just stopping and going and doing something else. Obviously the rewards and the artifacts people want, so they're going after them.
Winax, can't wait to use that tomorrow. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Big shout out to my
all right, thank you, Jay. Thank you everybody for hanging out with me for this video. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Obviously, like you know, as I'm accused of being overly positive, like I really have been enjoying this content update, because also I've been putting off on doing lots of different pieces of content in the game. So we streamed last night. We're gonna keep playing and streaming it as well, because there's a lot that I still want to do in this game that I haven't had the it's just always like the path of least resistance. So while I think it's important to play and take breaks and make sure you enjoy video games as a, you know, as a form of entertainment and not necessarily a job, yeah, I get how content creators can get real salty at times, and I offer a different perspective because I bring in that developer perspective, and hopefully you guys appreciate that. Regardless of you do or don't, you can always sound off, you can always engage in the content or choose to ignore it. I hope that you do enjoy it though, and I thank you so much for spending time with me today. That's all I got for you on this subject, and hopefully I'll see you guys in the next video and or live stream. But until then, take care.